Hello, everyone. My name is Leah Rhine, and this is my Equity Magnum Opus. Just to start out, my professional role as a teacher. Well, I've always had a desire to become a teacher ever since elementary school. I think I just always loved my teachers, and a lot of them inspired me. I also have just always had a desire to help others learn. First, it was math, and then I sort of transitioned to Spanish, and I am currently a Spanish dual immersion and ELD teacher at Bernie Sarah Middle School in San Clemente, California. My understanding of symphonic thinking, so it's embracing differences and using them to create something beautiful, such as a conductor would. How does this relate to equity in education? Our students' differences should not divide them or create gaps in their learning. Rather, they should be used as assets, leading to a richer learning environment. Our job as educators is to provide every student with the necessary tools they need to succeed based on their unique needs. And this is the beauty of a symphony, right? Everyone plays something different. Everyone needs different instruction from the conductor. But together it sounds beautiful. So just like what would happen in a classroom. And then what are some experiences in this course that have led me to this understanding of symphonic thinking? Well, they actually were a couple of the data tools that I was able to use. The first one was audio feedback interview. So I interviewed um, some eighth grade students from the demographic of students that I chose for my equity issue. And what I found was they all had such varied and diverse career goals. And I started thinking, even in society, we can apply this symphonic thinking, right? So in society, everybody has a different job, a different role, a different career based on, their talents, their strengths. But yet they all work together to create this beautiful symphony of our society and how it's run, right? And I just realized, these different career goals of these students, they all are important, and yet they all need different support and resources. And this is part of my equity issue that I'll get to later. And then the third street data tool I use was equity participation tracker. I observed two teachers, but I really felt like one teacher demonstrated symphonic thinking very well. He differentiated his interaction with students. I feel like he used his students' weaknesses as their strength. For example, one student had some behavior issues. This actually was the same student that I interviewed in the first street data tool. But he actually, I saw him using positive reinforcement when the student did well. And when he wasn't doing well, he used humor to kind of focus the student back in on the lesson. And then as far as language, I noticed that the English language learners were engaging with the content. He was able to get them, using content language. And then I had my own realization because there was one quiet student in the back that I felt, actually throughout the whole class, he didn't really talk. I didn't see him talk at all or participate. So it was just my own realization, something I need to grow in and include these students because they're not always gonna, vocalize their needs or talk to the teacher and participate. But I really want to reach out to these students, connect with them more, get them engaged more with the curriculum, and not overlook them because they're an important part of this, class of my classroom symphony. All right, so defining equity, my personal professional definition is actively identifying and eliminating obstacles that could be hindering any student from achieving the same academic success as their peers, regardless of their background. This also includes staying informed on how global issues create inequities and then finding ways to combat them while inviting students into this process and allowing them to become globally aware and competent. So from the NACO, the National Association of Counties, they define equity as the process of identifying and removing the barriers that create disparities in the access to resources and means, and the achievement of fair treatment and equal opportunities to thrive. And then from our text, Becoming a Globally Competent Teacher, Tickner Wagner 2019 et al. 2019 actually um, states that a commitment to equity is likewise foundational to critically analyzing how global interconnectedness contributes to inequities within and across nations. Understanding power dynamics that relate to language and intercultural communication, and developing partnerships that allow students to learn with and through their world. All right, so what is the difference between equality and equity? This course has taught me the differences. So first of all, equality is treating everyone the exact same way. Well, equity is actually giving everyone what they need to succeed. So even if that means treating them differently. Secondly, equality provides equal resources to everyone, while equity provides equal access to these resources, therefore providing equal outcomes. Equality has a one size fits all mindset, while equity has an everybody has unique needs mindset. Equality is equality is equal and uniform, while equity is fair and just. And then below, I have a couple resources where that talk about the differences. So again, our text, Becoming a Globally Competent Teacher, just defines equality as assuming everyone has the same needs and justifies using the same support. Well, equity takes into account the varying needs of every person, having different levels of giving different levels of support according to those needs. And then the article Equity versus Equality in Education, there actually is an author, but this is one of our resources in this course. And so they state that equality is equal, whereas equity is fair. Equality can be helpful, but it actually doesn't address individual needs. Whereas equity actually supplies resources according to the individual circumstances. So what is my equity issue and topic? So that it's the issue of equity as it pertains to schools in my community, helping prepare all students for their desired future careers, including those that do not require a college degree. And the demographic of students that I chose to work with were students that are part of the Gang Reduction and Intervention Partnership. This is called GRIP. So they're students who are at risk for joining a gang. Many of the students tend to have low grades, and many of them don't have a desire to go to college. Of course, some of them do, but the majority do not at this moment in their middle school career. And so just an issue that got brought up and that I chose to tackle was our school, our school as well as other schools in the community. Their main focus tends to be college and promoting, students to go to college. So the inequity that I wanted to explore was, maybe they're not considering students who don't desire to go to college right after high school, right? They might have other goals and plans. So what are some personal reasons for tackling this equity issue? Well, first of all, the home visit I conducted was actually a family friend, so it hit close to home. There are actually two students, they're sisters. One of them is part of the group program. And so I wanted to, obviously I care about them and I wanted to see their perspective. Also, of course, having a passion for helping students achieve their goals, no matter what they are. Professional reasons, well, actually, the last course they took in my master's program, it was on democracy and education. One of the surveys that I was conducting with a colleague of mine, it led to a discussion, and she actually pointed out this demographic of students. And she was just kind of telling me, that she feels the school is not um is not having equity in the way that they support them, and the fact that many of the students, like I said, don't want to go to college, and they have these vocational careers in mind, and yet they don't have the resources to fully attain those careers. And again, knowledge, or just adding to that, knowledge implies responsibility. Because I was knowledgeable of this issue of equity, I felt I had to do something about it. All right, so what is street data? My developed understanding is that it's data collected by real person-to-person conversation centered on how to improve the levels of equity in our school. And then it also keeps a positive focus. So it starts with what is going right, and then it constructively leads to how things could improve. And it also helps teachers understand their students and their families' experiences and backgrounds, especially those of whom tend to be excluded from decision making and might not be receiving the appropriate support for their individualized needs. All right, so what references have helped shape my understanding of street data? Honestly, it all comes from our textbook. our text that is called Street Data by Saffer and Duggan, 2021. So I'm just going to go ahead and read 3 quotes that really led me to my understanding of street data. So Saffer and Duggan, 2021, argue that street data is qualitative and experiential. It's asset-based. It's helping educators look for what's right in our students, schools, and communities instead of seeking out what's wrong. They also state that street-level data are ubiquitous. So it's everywhere, right? It's offering deep insight into student and educator experience. They also claim that street data emerges from human interaction, taking us down to the ground level to see, hear, and engage with children and adults in our community, our school communities, particularly those at the margins. Okay, so my first street data tool I used, it was an audio feedback interview. So what was my reasoning? Well, first of all, from our text of street data, the authors recommend for students, they recommended this audio feedback for students who are frequently left out. And as I already said, this group of students, I feel like they're left out of the decisions that are made at the school, right? They're not always, their career goals are not always taken into consideration. And then again, I already spoke about how my colleague, pointed out this inequity she sees with these students. So my intention was just to listen to this particular group of students and hear their perspective and experiences, and then find out how the school can equitably support these students and then remove barriers that may be holding them back from getting a head start on achieving their goals. All right, and then the second street data tool that I used was a home visit. So again, they're a family friend, two students, both sisters. One of them's in middle school, one's in high school. The one in middle school does not go to my school. She goes to the other middle school in our city, but also similar demographics. So the middle school student, is also in the GRIP program, and I wanted to help them, and also, the middle school student, she is absent from school a lot, and so I wanted to see, why this was. And so my intention was finding any inequities at the other middle school and high school in our community within my equity topic. I wanted to find a need this family had and then eventually work with my school and district to address these inequities and better support this family and others alike. All right, and then the third tool that I used was equity participation tracker. So I actually observed 2 teachers, but I purposely went into one teacher's classroom that had a student that I originally interviewed in the first street data tool, because I wanted to see how often this student participated or was called on compared to other students. I wanted to also observe his behavior and interactions between him and the teacher, and then consider this when thinking back on the comments he made during the during the audio feedback interview. So again, the intention was to see how the experience for him in the classroom was, and then also analyze this, and then just consider whether this is possibly contributing to his grades or contributing to his desire not to pursue higher education at the moment. All right, so what are some insights that I gained using these straight data tools? So the first one, audio feedback interview. Something that really stood out to me, I wrote in my journal, was these students had mostly positive responses um, about the school. They did have constructive feedback, but their outlook on the school was pretty positive. So despite, I feel like the reputation they get to, they have low grades and they're part of the GRIP program, they actually had a pretty positive outlook. And then also something I learned was that the majority of these students desired or had goals for vocational jobs. They were more career oriented. I There was like 3 students who said, maybe I might pursue college later on. And then as far as the home visit, I learned that the school's values didn't really line up with the families, and I started to analyze, think of, is this why is this causing the absence, right? Maybe this girl in middle school doesn't find the need to go to school because, again, her values aren't lining up with the schools. And then both of the students I interviewed, again, they're sisters, but they both had a vocational jobs in mind. One of them wants to be a tattoo artist, while the other one wants to be a makeup artist. And I asked them, and they, said that there were no resources given by the school to help them accomplish these career goals. Well, the last street data tool that I implemented was Equity Participation Tracker. I already talked a little bit about it, but I didn't learn that I did observe that the student that I interviewed in my first street data tool, that he actually interacted with the teacher often, even more than other students, but that the majority of the interactions, if not all, in fact, I believe all of the interactions were not content related. And so I started wondering, how this impacts his grades and how this impacts his desire to go to college, his desire not to go to college. Um, I also just, learned just a classroom management strategy, just how the teacher used humor and also positive. I didn't write it there, but he also used positive reinforcement for managing behaviors. Okay, so just leading into my focus of equity, how it looks, what it looks like on a national scale. So there's two articles that I wanted to discuss. Lamford and Tierney, 2015. I found this article through Google Scholar. So they talk about how there's a need for a shift in the purpose and focus of the U.S. education system from college preparation to career readiness. So they just describe how the workforce is changing and education must reflect that. That there's less college needed and now a more work-based focus needed also with academics as well. And then Ellen Kuyenga and et al. 2022. This was uncovered through the UMass Global Libraries database. So these authors really claim that with more culturally responsive curriculum, students actually became more interested in education. And so they actually related cosmetology to STEM. So they actually got these students that wanted, had cosmetology careers in mind. They got them interested in STEM. So it's science, science, technology, um, engineering, and mathematics. And so they got them interested in these subjects by relating it to cosmetology, something that they were interested in. Something else I learned from this article is that having a vocational skill can help students go to college. It actually provides, so they claim that this actually provides financial support and self-sufficiency, which actually breaks down the barriers that can lead to other pathways such as college. So that's actually related back to my equity issue, right? These students that may not want to go to college right now, if we provide the support and resources they need for these vocational careers, it doesn't mean that they'll never go to college. In fact, they might have a chance that they'll go eventually, and that us supporting them in these vocational careers could actually lead them to go to college, as it could provide financial support and also self-sufficiency, which you need as a college student. All right, so going on to a global scale. Again, two articles. One is the same as the one I just discussed, Lamford and Tierney. They actually talk about Germany. So the education system in Germany, it's more career-oriented, and it's actually being used as a model system for the US. Their education system reflects the culture it operates in. It also reflects the social and economic factors. So I feel this is something the US needs to also do. And then Shao 2016. So they actually did a study with China, Japan, and South Korea and the US, a comparative study. Very interesting. So when compared to China, Japan, and South Korea, the US actually had the highest perceived career planning and preparation for high school students. So this is something that surprised me, right? Because this is what I focused on in my equity issue. If high school students, middle and high school students are going to be ready for their careers, right? Um, so the US was actually the highest compared to China, Japan, and South Korea. However, although it was the highest, it was still a low number in all countries, a low percentage of students. So many students scored very low in career readiness. Something else from this article is academic ability associated with plans to attend college in all countries except for China. And then having a part-time job, this is really interesting. Having a part-time job was negatively correlated with plans for college in all countries except for the US. So this is something positive for my equity issue. And it actually just affirmed what I've been sorry, I meant to say it actually just affirmed what I've been uncovering in the sense that, having a part-time job after high school, students that might not go directly to college, like the students I interviewed, it might not actually be it might not actually mean that they're never going to go to college because according to this article, it's not negatively correlated for plans of college. And so that means that these kids might start college after their part-time job, once they provide can support themselves financially. And then lastly, positive social relationships significantly affect how well students feel prepared for a career. So that just was a reminder to me to always maintain positive social relationships with my students. And then all right, a couple of my most important takeaways. Number one, not all students plan to go to college, but that doesn't mean they won't eventually, right? However, resources are needed to support them better. So I feel like schools can maintain the encouragement for college and high expectations while still supporting other avenues to be successful. And I also learned that when values and goals of the school reflect the values and goals of the community, the interest in education is increased. And then this goes on to culturally responsive curriculum equals more engagement, which equals higher interest in education, which I believe could impact students' desire for higher education. This is something I really want to work on in the future, which I will get to right now. So relevance implications for the future. Number one, students of this demographic will be at my school, at our schools in our community for years to come. So my work will be effective not only this school year, but years to come. Also, this discussion I started with the counselors, I actually started talking to them about what I've been uncovering through this master's course. And we actually started we're going to start an actual action plan next school year of just how to provide equity to these students who have different career goals. And then I eventually would like to work with the district in implementing a program to educate middle school students better about college, as well as to show them other options and opportunities if they don't want to attend college right away. And I would like the careers that they teach them and provide them resources with, I would like those to reflect the actual career goals that of the current students. So I would like to do, uncover more street data and then use that for instruction in this program. And then again, to better educate them about what college is, it's actually something that Dr. Perez spoke to me about, and she actually mentioned, maybe these students don't fully understand what college is. Maybe they don't know the financial resources that they can receive, and so this actually just brought in another just something to consider with these students. And then, okay, my thoughts on equity before and now. So effective growth, behavioral growth, cognitive growth. Effective growth before, I feel like I cared about equity, but I did still have unconscious biases. So now I feel like I've grown in empathy as I listen intentionally to the voices of the marginalized. And it did undo some of my biases, which I already spoke about. Behavioral growth. So before I did act on equity, but I feel like it was based on my own thoughts of what students needed. Versus now, I only act on I'm sorry, my actions towards equity are based on first understanding the needs that come from their own voices. And so yeah, it's changed where now I uncover street data to um as a basis for equity in education. And then cognitive growth before, I had little to no understanding of the condition of equity nationally or globally. where it says, now I have a greater understanding of equity in my own country as well as in other countries, especially as it's concerned with my specific equity topic. Um, and so this is just my academic definition of equity and equality in education. So just going back to equality and equity, equality is ensuring every student is provided with equal resources and opportunities regardless of their background or circumstances. And equity goes above equality in that it provides every student with the resources necessary for them to succeed academically according to their specific circumstances and needs. Um, sorry, and then equity also means identifying and eliminating barriers to such resources based on students' voices while maintaining a global awareness of policies and practices impeding student success and finding ways to, sorry, 1 second, to combat that. It's because it got, 1 second to combat them. Let me go back. All right, so revisiting symphonic thinking. So, every student plays an important role in society, much like every musician plays an important yet different role in a symphony. Some musicians require a trumpet, some require a bass, in the same way every individual student requires different accommodations to allow them to succeed. Every student has different strengths, therefore different desires and goals for the life. So every student deserves to be provided the resources to help them achieve these goals, no matter if they differ from the majority of students. And then, so my equity magnum opus title is Every Student, Every Dream. So how does this relate to the definition of equity and equality in education? This class has formed a strong belief in me that we must listen to the voice of all of our students, especially those whose voices are rarely heard. I believe students' goals and dreams for their life deserve to be treated with equality. Every student's future goals and desires for their future should be valued and supported by the educational system that is supposed to prepare them to step into these goals. I also believe that they must be treated with equity, providing each student with individualized support to reach their specific goals. Um, no matter, I'm sorry, it keeps going. No matter if college is a part of that pathway or not. Let me go back because it cut out. And then these are my references. I'm not sure if I need to read them, but all of these references were used in my magnum opus. So Kuyenga, that was sorry, that was the first article used by UMass Global's library. And then I have equity versus equality, inclusion, and education. There was actually no written author, but this was a resource provided in this course from waterford.org. And then Lamford and Tierney 2015. Um, and this was how my equity issue is related nationally and globally. Next came to is NACO, as I spoke of the definition of equity. Saffer and Duggan, of course, are street data texts, 2021, and Tickner Wagner was from our other text, Becoming a Globally Competent Teacher. And then Show was another article that I got from Google Scholar, just was a comparative study between China, Japan, South Korea, and the US. So just uncovering my equity issue as it compares to other countries. So a global understanding of my equity issue. Thank you so much.